If, what are you really trying to say? If we're only talking about certain pieces of black history, are we just saying, well, these are the exceptions?
Right.
That's kind of where I have a problem with it, if you understand where I'm going.
Yeah. I understand exactly where you're going because like he's saying, it puts them in a corner. It allows them to not talk about your Nat Turners. When you
Exactly.
That's a great example. Like I didn't get to learn about Nat Turner when I was in school during Black History Month. I got to hear about Martin Luther King. And they won't even tell you the truth about Martin Luther King and
But
how
not
the
much
country
about
really.
Malcolm X, right? They want to
Oh,
talk
oh no.
about yeah.
Oh no,
There you
yeah,
go.
Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's you
There
save
you
that
go.
for 12th grade year.
Yeah.
They only wanted to mention Malcolm X when they came out with the movie. It's like, okay, so now we got to address this dude again because here come, Spike Lee bringing out the movie, and that's going to make people ask questions. Did this person, yes, he really existed. So you wouldn't have known before Malcolm X came out that Malcolm X existed unless you lived in you didn't learn it in school. So what he's saying is, I feel like too we need to abolish a lot of things. Black History Month being one of them, and we need to change the history books to stop making it to where they can only cover it in a few weeks. You can't cover Black history. Like when you take out the accomplishments of a people, it automatically makes the same people of the same descent feel like they're not able to accomplish anything. Speak your mind.
Yes, I wanted to say that they talking about Black History Month on the show.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Same as Clay. The thing that I want to see that's funny, Black History Month I'm a minister that I always said in school that's so funny is that when we learn Black history for 1 month and after 12, it takes 12 years, and it takes 12. It's I'm yeah,
I think what was you getting at, it takes 12 years to get a whole year of Black history. So by the time you graduate, you might get a whole year of it.
no, not that. I mean, I did the math. Say you start off from first grade to
Mm-hmm.
12th grade. In 12 years, you have one each month. You do Black history. At the end of 12 years, when you graduate, you only did a year of Black history, and you did 11 years of the other history.
Oh yeah, that's the way. That's the way. That's how they do it. They,
Didn't learn nothing.
and didn't learn right. Didn't learn crap. Because I mean, you learn the same stuff over and over again. They never changed the curriculum on Black History Month. It's the same people. Even though you move up in time in school, they don't advance the knowledge that you're able to accept. Like maybe I wouldn't have been able to accept that slaves was raped and beaten when I was in the first grade, but I for sure would have been able to understand it in high school, and it would have made sense with what goes on right now in America. It's what it's always been, and that's kind of what David was trying to get at with the whole history of America and slavery and racism, which is like the next subject that we're going to tackle because like the Civil War was more than about slavery. It's really about the preservation of racism. That's what the whole country was built on. That's why y'all hear me saying things like we need to abolish and overthrow the Constitution because the entire country was built on, slavery and on racism. So to me, when we leave documents like the Constitution intact and we just add a couple of amendments, then the right-wing racists have a point when they say we're trying to change America. Because honestly, America was founded on negativity and racism and things of that sort. So they have a point. So I say we overturn the whole thing and start over.
Yes, you have to. I heard a minister say before, it's like baking a cake and forgetting the ingredient. You can't pour the cake out and then throw the ingredient on top of the cake.
No.
That's right.
Now you got to scrap it and start all over. I mean, because they have a point, and like I say, I don't like it, but I understand where the white supremacists come from. They died off, They
Well, they
keep
know it's
mixing.
important, right?
Right.
I mean, believe me,
Right.
there's one thing the right wing understands is the importance of history and trying to get their interpretation of history out there and make sure it stays out there and make sure it stays current. They understand that because you can't really understand what's going on unless you understand how we got here. You just can't. And they're very, very, very concentrated on that. I mean, there's all kind of websites out there and people writing books that is like, holy crap. People are believing this stuff.
Well, I do thank you for your call today.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So I think, I guess what we're leading up to is, a lot of people probably aren't even interested in history, right? It's like just not your thing. I mean, it's definitely my thing. I read history, and I'm one of those guys that, like, as I'm reading a book, I'm going back to the footnotes at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, where do you get that from? That's pretty interesting. And what book did that come from? And next thing you know, I'm on Amazon trying to get another book and another book and another book. And it's almost like a daisy chain. It's just one to the next to the next to the next, and just trying to, I wish more people had that passion for learning about history. You got to start with the right sources, but I always feel like the right sources is the original sources. In other words, the most important thing, you got something you want to read on there?
Oh, no, I'm just keeping it.
The most important things you can really learn from is what people said and did at the time. I firmly believe that, because, if you're getting your history, obviously, from a meme on Facebook, that's probably not right. And there's a lot of books out there that are not true. I mean, people wrote books with an agenda.
Yeah,
but if you can go back and on the internet, you can find the actual original sources. If you want to know what people are really thinking during the Civil War, you can go on the internet and you can find the speeches that people were making in Congress. You can find the sermons that preachers were preaching. You can find all kinds of interesting, letters that people, diaries that people were writing, and how people were really feeling. Mm-hmm. So I have this argument all the time. So one of the things we want to kind of do over time is just talk about kind of common misconceptions, right? Things that you'll hear people say all the time, and trying to correct those and kind of give you a little bit of ammo, a little bit of insight into why those common misperceptions are not true.
Yeah. Okay. Because I don't believe that the Civil War was about slavery.
There you go. That's the big one, right? That's probably the number one. The Civil War was not about slavery.
Speak your mind.
Hey,
how are you?
I speak better than I type right now. So, now, one thing I was going to say to you guys about this and the whole education that we get in high school, it's been over 20 years since I've been in high school. And I know that you have kids in school now. What kind of movies are they showing during Black History Month now? Because all we got in my generation in the 80s and 90s was Roots. So every year we'd see the original Roots,
Right. I don't even think they're showing that. Like, I think they stopped showing, like, they're actually, the education system is going in the wrong direction as far as telling the truth, because they're using euphemisms that you've never heard. Migrant workers, to describe the slaves. So they're really stepping away. Yes. Immigrant workers, and then you get that's what it would imply, but we all know the truth, so I just really feel like
it's the next generation, because they're actually going to be the ones that are dictating what happens in our lives, 10, 20 years from now.
Absolutely. And
the real thing. Like, I understand that you can't show Django,
right.
Schools,
and I wouldn't recommend it.
Show the new Roots? Do they show, I didn't really like 10 Days as a Slave, though, or 10 years.
You know what? I couldn't get through it. I could not get through 12 Years a Slave, because in the beginning of that movie, all I remember is they kept hitting him in his head. Kept on hitting him in the head, and I just couldn't take it. I was like, I can't do this. I ain't going to be able to do this when I got to go to work tomorrow. And how am I going to go to work and look at these people in the face? I going to have to go to work tomorrow, and I can't.
Then, like, at the very end, Brad Pitt, who was the producer on the movie, saved his ass, and he was the savior of the whole freaking thing. And it's like, come on, keep the black guy be the savior.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I mean, people told me I should have got through it, but I couldn't. I mean, I'm just one of those. I'm an empath, and I felt like I was that individual, and I just would not. You hit me upside my head. Oh, then this is the time I die. I think I was born at the right time, because I wouldn't have been able to make it to 41 in those days, because they would have had to kill me. I mean, because
you were like me. You've seen Roots like numerous times when we were in school, right?
Yeah. Well.
Like middle school and high school, like every February, it was like, okay, this is the month that we watch Roots.
Right, and that's how you.
As a white girl, that was pretty much all I was taught.
Right, but see, the thing is.
Roots, and then this guy made peanut butter, and then this chick did the Underground Railroad, which we know there was more than Harry Tubman. Come on now.
Absolutely, but see, the thing about Roots and how they did it, they was always comfortable with the story that says that you were nothing but a slave. They've never been comfortable with stories of black people back in those days that weren't owned by white folks and actually did remarkable things. They don't want you to see that side. They are comfortable with you thinking that you come from nothing.
I wish we could show everybody Django because it actually shows a black guy, taking over and
Right.
you know.
Well, I like that, but I'm more of a Nat Turner type of a person. I like what Nat Turner did better. But Django was good, but Django, it was kind of, see, I'm not for the cruelty of treatment of anybody, me personally, but I understood Nat Turner's story a little bit better. If you haven't seen that.
The reason I think that would have been a good movie, though, is because of Samuel L. Jackson's character, because he was the Uncle Tom.
Oh, yeah.
And in the roots, they kind of had the Uncle Tom, but they didn't have one as good as Samuel L. Jackson. And I know there's too much.
Well, they can just look at Jesse Jackson and they can get their, view of an Uncle Tom. I mean.
You know what I mean? Though, like, in history, we weren't really taught about Uncle Tom as much, It was just through the movie Roots, and that's not really good to me.
Well, see.
Like you're telling me that they're not even showing kids that. So.
I mean, me personally, I'd get away from movies altogether.
Just get into.
I'd get away from movies altogether. I mean, I'd be like, oh, we're going to read James Baldwin. That's what we're going to do. We're going to read James Baldwin. It's a crime to me that people can graduate high school in this country and not even know who that is, much less have even read anything of his. That's a crime.
I went to a few different high schools, so I read Romeo and Juliet 3 times, but I never did read Uncle Tom's Cabin in high school.
Yeah.
And now they won't let you read it because it's got the N word in it. It's crazy.
It's insane.
It's
really insane.
But thank you for.
Let you guys go.
Thank you, Miss Melissa.
Because I know you have kids that are school age, so I just wanted to
Oh yeah, they're not doing enough. Just know that.
Okay. Have a good night. Thank you, babe.
You too. Thanks. Love you more.
So what we're talking about is history of the Civil War. Now, the common view of the cause of the Civil War is anything but slavery in America. And there's a reason for that, because after the Civil War, there was a conscious decision made to teach that it had nothing to do with slavery. Mm-hmm. And that was to bring the South back into the country and bring the Southerners back into the country, and essentially for white folks, North and South, to reconcile. They had to come to a common agreement of what the war was over, that everybody could agree with and wouldn't blame anybody. It was just something that happened, It was like, all right, so there's a reason why everybody's been taught that. But, of course, we all know there's a lot of things that will tell you that that's not true. So here's the 5-minute history lesson. Here's like 10 different things that'll show you that people already know. They already have these facts in their head, but somehow they don't apply this to the idea of what caused the Civil War. Number one, when we first wrote the Constitution, the main argument in the Constitution was how slaves were going to be treated. 3/5 clause. Everybody's heard of the 3/5 clause. How are slaves going to be counted as population for purposes of power? If there wasn't a compromise over slavery in the Constitution, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. All of the different compromises that happened in Congress leading up to the Civil War, what were they over? They were over slavery. All the states that came into the Union, you'll notice it was always paired a non-slave state with a slave state every time because of the power. That was a division. If you're going to bring in Maine, we got to have Alabama or whatever the pairing was. All the way up to the Civil War, they wanted to keep the number of slave states even with the number of free states. Every political argument, anybody heard of the gag rule? If you heard the term gag rule, the original gag rule was in Congress. They made a gag rule that said nobody could lay a petition before Congress about slavery. It was a huge argument in the early 1800s. That wasn't over tariffs. That wasn't over states' rights. That wasn't over where the Intercontinental Railroad went or the Continental Railroad went. It was over slavery. 1858. Kind of the predecessor for the Civil War was the Senate election in the state of Illinois between Stephen Douglas and Lincoln. Lincoln was running for Senate. Lincoln lost to Stephen A. Douglas. You can read the actual speeches that they made. There's a lot of people have quoted from the speeches that Lincoln made, showing that he was pro-slavery, showing he was anti-slavery. He was a very complicated guy. You can't just put him in one camp or the other. He was a person of his times. But all those speeches, the whole argument going back and forth in the whole election was over slavery. You can look at the churches, read the sermons. The church split. Southern Baptists. What are Southern Baptists? Why is there a Southern Baptist as opposed to a Northern Baptist? Over slavery, that's when it split. You can look at the speeches that the senators made when South Carolina succeeded. All the senators and their states started succeeding, and they made big speeches in Congress saying, this is why I'm leaving. Why do you think they said they were leaving? Slavery. Every time, slavery. You can look at the Constitution of the Confederate States of America. Looks almost exactly the same as the Constitution of the United States of America. One major difference: how it treats slavery. The word slave is nowhere in the Constitution of the United States, but it was in the Constitution of the Confederate States. The only difference between the two was how slavery was treated. When South Carolina seceded, it sent commissioners to every other southern state saying, you need to join us. And you can read those speeches today. Online, you can go and find those commissioner speeches, and guess what they said? The reason why South Carolina left? Slavery. All these things show that the reason that the states, the North and South split, and that was the main thing right there, who was on either side.
Okay, let me address this.
Yep.
He says Lincoln did not believe that slavery was morally wrong.
I kind of disagree with that.
I disagree with that, and I'm going to tell you why I disagree, and then he's going to tell you why he disagreed. I disagree with that. Lincoln believed more in the union of the country. He believed in doing whatever was going to keep America, America, and not have two separate entities. So he didn't necessarily, Lincoln didn't own slaves. That's a lie that they try to spread, that he was a slave owner. Lincoln was not a slave owner. He did not believe in owning slaves, but he did believe in his country and whatever was going to be best for the country to continue as it was. So it's kind of like having a president that wants to defend the Constitution. He might not agree with everything in the Constitution, but he feels like it's his job to not put in his feelings into his job, because his job is to protect the Constitution. And the Constitution allowed slavery. So he was more so a by the books person versus let me put my moral authority in and make a decision that way. So you tell why you feel like.
So this is what I would say, and I can't quote it from memory, but he had a very good friend, Lincoln did, long before the Civil War, long before he was president. Joshua Speed was his name. He was from Louisville. Joshua Speed was. Google Lincoln's letter to Joshua Speed, and it will give you the text of a letter he wrote to his friend who was a slave owner before the Civil War. And it's probably the best example of Lincoln's thinking on slavery before all that stuff even happened, of how he felt as a younger man about slavery. He was against slavery, but I'm not going to say he was perfect. I'm not. You know, you can't put anybody on a pedestal as an angel, and you can't put anybody as a devil.
Right.
You can't oversimplify anybody.
But I'm oversimplified Trump's ass. He's a devil.
You can't, as much as I like to, you can't even oversimplify Trump. I have nothing good to say about Trump, but you can't oversimplify him. In other words, it's very easy to say, well, he's just an idiot. You're not saying anything when you just say he's an idiot. You're not even saying anything when you say he's a racist. I believe that he is. I'm not saying he's not, but you know, there are better ways of explaining people.
He's a doofus.
All right. But so, you know, I would love to do a whole show just about Lincoln, because I'm a huge Lincoln's, amateur scholar. I've read literally hundreds of books about the dude. I think he's a fascinating dude. I don't think he was a perfect dude. I think
Joshua
he changed.
Speed, who the U of L named their museum for?
Same guy.
Speed Art Museum.
Yep, same guy. Same family, big family. But anyway, so the last point I was going to make was, if you just look at the Civil War, it was between slaveholding states and free states. To say it wasn't about slavery, come on, that's ridiculous. Now what I'm going to say is, having shown you all these reasons why we can prove that the Civil War was about slavery, I am now going to agree with what you said earlier and tell you, no, the Civil War was not about slavery. And this is what I'm going to say. Slavery itself was not the root of the problem. Slavery was not the root of the problem. Racism was the root of the problem. Slavery was just the mechanism. Slavery was just the social and economic system built on the racial hate that was already here. The slave system, when we imported the first slaves to this country, that whole system built around slavery didn't exist in the 1600s, but the prejudice already did. How I came to that conclusion, I'm going to read just a quick out of a whole nother book I was reading, and I was like, this blew my mind, because I would have said, literally 6 months ago, I would have said the Civil War was about slavery. That's why, boom, end of discussion. But that's not the whole story. So here, this is from a book by Bruce Catton about the Civil War, and he quotes a letter that a North Carolina mountaineer wrote to Governor Zebulon Vance, a letter that expressed the non-slaveholders' point of view perfectly. So this got me thinking, right? Because the South fought to preserve the social system. They fought to preserve slavery, definitely. But so why did all those people that didn't own slaves still fight so freaking hard? That's a question that you'll hardly ever see answered. Why did the
most of the Southern
average dude didn't have slaves?
Just like the average dude don't have a car. Like, just think about it like that. You can't afford, like, all the people in Portland.
Why does the average dude in Portland love Trump so much?
Right.
Okay, now we're getting to it, right? So, believing that some able-bodied men ought to stay at home to preserve order, this man set forth his feelings, and this quotes him. We have but little interest in the value of slaves, but there is one matter in this connection about which we feel a very deep interest. We are opposed to Negro equality. To prevent this, we are willing to spare the last man, down to the point where women and children begin to suffer for food and clothing. When these begin to suffer and die, rather than see them equalized with an inferior race, we will die with them. Everything, even life itself, stands pledged to the cause, but that our greatest strength may be employed to the best advantage in a struggle prolonged, to let us not sacrifice at once the object for which we are fighting. Think about that. This is not a slave owner. This is an average dude living in North Carolina. He was not fighting for slavery. He was not fighting for property. He was fighting for that social system of which slavery was only the enforcer.
Speak your mind, Mr. Young.
Hello, ma'am. How we doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm just trying to get in and talk with you for a minute. Looks like you guys are having a great time.
Oh, yeah. This is every day at our house. We just letting y'all in on the conversation.
All right. I just want to tune in there when you guys was asking about the president and how they get the average people in Portland to fight for Trump. The thing is, I feel like they're creating a new low. They're not improving those people's lives. They're creating a level below their lives to make them think that they have ascended when they haven't.
It's the same old game they've always done. It's the same game. It's the whole.
Yep, that's right.
It's how it's always been.
At least I'm not black.
Yeah. Building a lower basement.
No matter how bad you have it, at least you are white.
Yes. You know, I've watched them for a long time. America's not good at new tricks. They just like the old ones and do them over and over and over.
Revamp.
Yeah. No, that's one of the reasons I love reading history, because I was reading a book about Joe McCarthy the other day, and they described this guy. He was a reporter like back in the 50s, and he described Joe McCarthy. I posted it on Facebook because I'm like, who does this sound like? Sounded just like Trump.
Yeah, that's exactly
McCarthyism.
it. You know? But
that's what they keep.
This is a long-term process for me. I've been watching this over 30 years, and the dumbing down of our society started with Reagan.
Yeah.
And it started downhill because if you guys remember, and I know being 41, you was a kid then, Tara, but the thing is they started selling clothes on Madison Avenue with holes in them already. They made raggedy a style.
Yeah.
Then they took away your vowels in your conversation. Now they don't even teach a kid how to write.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
can't even write cursive.
Years, they've dumbed this condition down so badly that you don't have that worker no more. You don't have anybody that wants to ascend anymore because they have learned to exist and not to succeed.
And to be content with that.
Yeah, and they are consumed with that because they like the shiny stuff. Here, hand me let me put 15 gold teeth in my mouth and I'm going to look better, but you ain't got 28 cents in your pocket. You know,
man, I'm gonna tell you, Tony. I mean, I literally took this shirt and these pants out of the dryer before I came here. Like, I'm not the one that can just wear one outfit one time and throw it away. I am not the one that can wear a pair of shoes. I probably wore these boots, the same boots every day the last month. You know, coming up here to do this podcast because I don't care about the bling and the extra stuff. Once you realize life, all that extra stuff is just that.
But you get
extra stuff.
But see, so many of them get sold on that because that's the easy way out.
and it's an easy way out with like athletics. You know, yeah, we're going to complain about the football players, but you know what? The football players didn't stay home. The football players kept going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So protesting that was really a moot point. But see, we were all fooled because they made the kneeling the issue and not the actual brutality that they were kneeling over the issue.
And they jumped on it, too. Everybody jumped on it. Everybody that wanted to jump on it jumped on it. Yeah. As soon as they threw that patriotism out there and the veterans.
The thing is nobody jeopardized a paycheck. But Colin Kaepernick, he don't want to jeopadize a paycheck.
And that's why I'm still on my boycott, Tony. That's why I had to drop the Dallas Cowboys. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan for over 20 years. My husband will attest, for over 20 years, but I had to drop them after Jerry Jones made it clear how he felt. And for me, I'm a black woman before I'm a Cowboy fan. So that was an easy decision, but I still know some other black Cowboy fans, and I don't see how they do it. When you know that the owner of your team is a racist, I don't see how you still cheer for that team. That's just me.
It was way before Jerry, hon.
It was way before. But you know what? But when they show you who they are, you better believe them. It's like I may not have known who you was before this year, but once you show me.
You see that comment?
Yeah, I watched them for a long time, and you know, like the Cowboys, that man sold his soul to the devil, and he can't get it back.
Who? Jerry Jones?
Jerry Jones.
He just needs to go on and die. How about that? I put it out there.
Going.
He done lived. He done had every hooker he wanted. He done played every slot machine he wanted to play. He done built the stadium of his life. Died already.
He just can't. He can't stop now. See, he can't stop now because he's now poisoned the rest of the owners. See, because let me give y'all a little sports history while y'all kill the time for you. Jerry sued the league back in the early 90s, maybe, I think it was, because once he had Troy and Emmett and Michael Irvin, he needed money to pay those guys. So he signed a contract with Nike away from NFL Properties. NFL Properties sued him for $75 million. Jerry countersued for $750 million. The league said, we'll settle this. You can have the contract with Nike. NFL Properties went away, kind of, but in return, Dallas was not on TV no more. Dallas used to be every Sunday. Now they might get 3 Sundays a year, maybe, and they have to win a lot to get to that.
So, well, wait a minute. How can that be true?
Schedule. Their season is over by Thanksgiving, and they've made all the money they want.
Well, now how can that be true when they still call them America's team?
Well, that America's team thing came from way back there in the 70s because that star was big, you know, just like the flag is. You know, the Patriots can be called America's team now. Every so often they create a team that the majority of the populace can fall in line with. Dallas had the star. Everybody loves wearing a star. People believed in being stars. A star was on a actor or actress's dressing room. So, you know, they always kind of identify with a star. The Patriots, they just came along with 9/11.
Exactly.
9/11 came along, and we needed somebody to rally behind, so we rallied behind the Patriots.
Yeah, that's why I think it's all rigged. We have 9/11, then all of a sudden they win like 5 Super Bowl rings. Like, come on, man.
Well,
like, who is the Patriots?
The Patriots
the Pat Riots.
The Patriots win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so yeah, I can definitely get with that, Tony. But if I don't get another better Black History statement than yours, then you won my gift card today, buddy.
All right, then. All right. Well, you go ahead and do what y'all got to do.
All right. We appreciate your call.
All right. Me and Dave, just for the sake of it, man, we got to talk, man, because I like your conversation, dude. You're deep. You got a lot of info in that head. I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I got it. We got to work that out, all right?
All right.
So y'all go ahead and do your thing, and I'll catch up with you, sir.
Thank you so much, Tony.
All right. Bye-bye.
Peace.
So the whole point of where we were going, though, is my feeling is this. History is important because, number one,
you're important, baby. You're important.
Getting calls is good.
Speak your mind.
How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. I would like to offer a comment.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm listening and I hear what you're saying, but a big part of the reason why whites feel the way that they do towards non-whites is propaganda. And I don't want to compete for the for the gift card when I offer this, so I don't even want to offer my name up. But in the 1490s, back when the civilizations first started, there were colonies back when they were transitioning between like indentured servitude and and slavery, and they had colonies where people were working their 7 years, getting their land, and a lot of interbreeding of the genders of the races rather happened, and as a result of this, there was like lots of brown colonies. And a lot of people don't know that the original plant that started slavery was actually tobacco. And so they had these tobacco fields and tobacco farms. And when one of the original colonists, I want to say but
Jamestown.
What they did was they went ahead and executed, like just mass executions of these brown colonies. And they killed all of them. Women, children, men, killed them all. And began to separate them. Began to separate the white indentured servants and treating the people of color, those are at the time still the native people and African peoples, and they separated them and, made the white people feel like, at least you're not
right.
At least you're not as bad as them. But originally, brown people were, getting along, coexisting just fine, but they started spreading this propaganda. And that's gone on for hundreds of years. For centuries, you've had massive propaganda. So it's not like there's, this hatred. It's people who don't have the intellect to differentiate between, what's real and what's not, as you still see today.
Mm-hmm.
People don't have the brain power to tell, the when
difference.
They're being pissed on or when it's rain. And unfortunately, the powers that be, the people with the money, going to keep pumping it out there because it keeps their pockets fat.
That's it. And that's why they have Trump there now. You see all the stuff that they're doing with government to basically disrupt I guess you could call it Zen that the country has right now, where you have actual poor people that live below the poverty level and are okay with that. They're going to disrupt that. But they've got Trump creating the distraction while they do the real work. That's why my husband always calls Trump the hype man. He's going to say the stuff to incite you while they doing all the real work
behind the scenes.
Right. And the sad part is, these people are voting against themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's not two welfares. There's not two different social system services available to Americans. No. Unfortunately, white people, that is you. There are massive amounts of Trump supporters in Kentucky, which holds the highest.
Oh my goodness! Have you seen them with the look?
And they're all white.
The cars, they look like they're gonna fall apart as they ride down the street, and they'll have a "Make America Great Again" hat on with a bumper sticker. Like, how did you get the bumper sticker on it without the bumper falling off? That was magic.
I tell you, I'm glad that you brought that up though, because honestly, like that piece that I just read out of this book,
Yeah.
All of what I've been reading lately has been going back to the question of, I've been going further and further and further back. Where did it start and how did it start? Slavery in America has for, most of American history, slavery has been synonymous with color, right? Slave has meant black. But it wasn't always that way. Slavery existed in the world in every country. And was never race-based like it was here and it was like in the West Indies. Only in the New World did slave become synonymous with black.
Right.
Only in the New World was it race-based. And so that's where a lot of my reading's been going, is like, how did that happen? Because only here did that happen.
And only in America did you know how the parent...
Exactly. So in most societies, you follow whatever your social station is, follows your father, right?
Right.
But in America, slavery follows the mother. In other words, if the father is free and the mother is a slave, the child Anywhere else
slave.
would be free. But here, the child is a slave.
Right.
That was like something that we invented here in America
because
that really
too many
didn't happen
slave
anywhere
owners
else.
was raping their slaves
Yeah.
and making the babies with the
So-
slave, and they didn't want
then
that
you
child
get
to
into
be free.
What they call the one-drop rule, and all these other things are unique to America.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things that really, this is why it's like I wish that this is the stuff that we should be honestly teaching.
in school.
I'm not saying that you have to introduce a first grader to the idea that Thomas Jefferson was literally raping his slaves and selling their children. You know, that is a true statement. I don't necessarily know that anybody would want their first or second grader to be getting into those kind of discussions.
Well,
but I
the
don't
sad
think
part
you
is
should
that
graduate high school without knowing that.
Right, but at the same time, this is the world we live in, and because of
Yeah.
that first or second grader can be in the playground playing with a toy gun and get murdered by a police officer.
That's
and
right.
Society not feel any type of way about it except that it's wrong.
Absolutely
but,
right.
You know, not wrong
Or
enough to
figure
convict
out what that
anybody.
child did wrong to be put.
Yeah, like, well, what did the child
automatically-
do? It goes away from.
There you go. Why does the presumption of black criminality exist to where anything that happens you're automatically and all the things that leads to of why it's important not to have all white juries.
Right, and but that's all because to me that all stems from the propaganda to further advance
100%.
the greedy agenda.
That is still
100%.
being pushed. That
Yeah,
propaganda
it's still out
hasn't
there.
ended. It's still like even with the news, you could have
Right,
two
propaganda.
clerks go to jail for stealing Kentucky lottery tickets, but they have the black one on there for the whole week, talking about her little scheme because they did that not too long ago. They had a little black girl on there. They kept showing up for days and days and days. She stole like $200 worth of tickets, but they didn't film or show the 5-person ring of white women that was stealing lottery tickets from Kroger's. That never made the news, but this one little black girl, because they have to overcompensate and show our criminality anytime we do
Well, not
something.
only that, but it's their own personal presuppositions, right? Automatically, I honestly feel like half the time they don't even realize they're doing it. What gets on TV?
I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that. I think that there's subtle things that happen even with the language. Like if you notice, like on the news, they'll say blacks, like instead of calling us people.
Yeah.
Even in our history, they call us blacks or slaves
Yeah.
instead of calling us people. We were always people, treated as property,
Yes.
Yeah.
being raped and forced against our will to do manual labor. We
But
were
they
people.
don't see
and
it.
so to me, by twisting the language, you take the humanity out of it, and then we become
yes.
less and less human.
Yes.
And that narrative continues today.
Yeah.
Well, and it's framing because it's how the word you use to describe something frames the whole argument, right?
Yep.
Just the language you use to define an issue.
Like if I say his drug addicted mother,
Yeah.
you know, it's like why you
Well,
have to tell his mama's history? You telling his story? Like why you trying to tarnish?
Yeah,
But
it helps
even-
frame the narrative. Yeah, it does.
You
frame
know,
the
it's
narrative.
like the death tax. Perfect example. You know, if you automatically, you know, if you can understand that the inheritance tax only applies to billionaires in this country, but once you accept calling it the death tax and people all of a sudden feel like it applies to them, now all of a sudden people are like, yeah, we got to get rid of that. Dude, you will never have enough money to worry about that.
No, you won't.
But we have accepted your definition. We have accepted your language. Obamacare.
Right.
That's not what it's called.
Right.
But
You know,
yeah, get
it's
rid of
the
that.
Affordable Care Act,
Right.
which we tried to frame it the Affordable Care Act, but Obamacare stuck.
Right.
So automatically you've already lost the battle because it's associated with Obama, who they already hate for reasons which we're currently discussing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, you know.
I wish you know the one thing that I want to see happen, like this would be my dream, is that we go ahead and ride this vehicle to the wheels fall off and let this go ahead and just crash like it's nothing to. I mean, because there's no way for it to prosper. Usually we can keep these, greedy powers in check by, the people willing to fight and people who are willing to embrace the truth and reality. But we got more people embracing propaganda and foolishness and a paycheck than ever before. So in my opinion, like, let these people, this Dawn of the Dead town, let all of these people who support Trump, who are taking what they actually live and need to survive, let these people go ahead and get exactly what they're asking for, and see that this is this is not a black thing.
It really isn't. But see, like that passage he just wrote, he's basically, that person was telling, like, what we already know. Like, they would rather die than to have equal footing
cool
with black folks. They cool with that. They like, okay, if my mama and my daughters and my wife got to die and I got to be the last one to die, as long as the people after us have superiority, I'm good. You know, that's crazy, but that's just the way it is. And it's kind of like they thought they was coming over here and going to inhabit a land, and they wasn't. It was black people already here when they got here. They're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This supposed to be the promised land.
I mean, I really feel like, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but I really feel like knowledge is power. Yeah. And I feel like historical knowledge is huge. Like, you know, we're all about buying books for kids for Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Now, getting them to read it, we ain't going to pretend we're perfect.
No.
You know, but we try. And we certainly, you know, we do, you know, great documentaries have come out this last year. I Am Not Your Negro was one of them. We make the kids come down and watch these documentaries.
Yeah.
The one about the Black Panther Party. I forget the name of it.
They did one on, I think PBS did one on Black Panthers, and they did 13th. If y'all haven't seen that one, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, it was great.
That's a great one to actually get kids to watch.
You know, I feel like what I feel like we really need is we need people who, you don't even have to be a professor of history to know something about history. I am no professor, you know, but just to get kids together and talk and just bring in, you know, some kind of historical book. It's something, you know, and read a passage and talk about it and just get those. I really feel like you can get some facts. There are some great books out there that I feel like if kids were introduced to them, I'm going to throw a couple out there. One is Walking with the Wind, John Lewis's book, his autobiography. Not a very long book, not a difficult book to read, great book. A book by Halberstam called The Children, which focuses on how black children in the South provided a lot of the impetus for the civil rights movement. And he talks about a whole bunch of different places, you know, in Greensboro and the kids that literally walked out of school and into jail.
Right.
Literally walked out of school and into jail. And these are kids. These are 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds. Yeah. And people don't even know about it. But I feel like if we introduce young people to these stories and then give them the ability to go find out more, you know, there are a lot of really curious people out there, and I feel like it's like you give them that one thread to pull on,
and then they'll go looking
let
for
them
themselves.
take it. Yeah. Let them take it where they want to take it.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, but that's our responsibility, and I think that I feel like we've been so disheartened by the assassination of all of our leaders, and the veil of change is not really there, but like it appears to be. And, you know, I think that we've kind of gotten disheartened, and as a result, we've failed to pass that passion for justice on to the next generation. And these kids are growing up and don't know left from right.
Justice or education, because it's like, this is like the first, like, I've never seen a generation of black folks that did not celebrate education at all. Like, I mean, we have a large group of black folks going back to school and getting degrees, but I'm talking about these young folks. They don't celebrate education like we used to. You know, there's a picture going around social media now back after slavery, but the black kids was walking to school with no shoes on, but they had books in their hand. No shoes, but they had the books. So when did it change? When did we accept that we don't need education? All we need is the things. When did we get happy with things? Like, as long as we got enough money to buy things and everything. It used to be, you can take everything but my mind. You can take everything from me, and we've changed that. You can have my mind, just honestly, don't take my things.
I think I can kind of answer that a little bit.
Please.
Because that is That is the American system now. This is what we've been moving toward. We've been moving toward a system that is based on economics. Economics, what you have defines you as a person. How much you make defines you as a person. Certainly, I would say the Republican Party today is all about a person as an economic actor. That's what they care about. Your buying power, how much money you have. That's all of your value. That's what they care about. And the whole culture has bought into that. That's what we've become as a nation. You can't even say certainly you can't say it's just black kids. That's America.
Yeah.
As a whole has become, it's all about economics. You know, our political philosophy now for many people is all about wealth. It's all about wealth. It's not about fostering any kind of community. And it's because the community is based on wealth, right? You know, it's not about fostering any kind of community, and it's not about making good citizens. It's about making good consumers.
Yeah.
That's, to me, the difference. My political philosophy, I think these days when people ask me what I am, I say I'm a small d Democrat, which means, okay, the Democratic Party is the closest to what I believe, but they're really not 100% what I believe. I'm a small d Democrat, meaning we need to grow good citizens, and we need to prepare people to be good citizens and to participate in democracy, and that means education, and that means you need to be fed, and that means you need to be housed, and all those kind of things that go along with actually being able to exercise your freedoms. Whereas on the other side, it's all about freedom, which is my freedom to do whatever the hell I want to do and keep every dime that I make and make more.
Right.
That's kind of, to me, the difference. I mean, boy, we could go on.
We can grow this conversation.
Yeah.
But I
We could go
feel like
on.
I've monopolized enough of y'all.
No, not all. No, this was
Oh,
great
no.
because this really played
This
into
is
what
what
we
we-
were talking about.
Look, I got about 10 more points I can make, but let me not monopolize them. All
Absolutely.
in line here. And I'm going to keep on watching here.
I appreciate you. And we
All right.
we definitely appreciate you calling. That's what I want people to do, is to call in and join the conversation, add to the conversation, grow the conversation, spark a conversation in your place where you at right now. And maybe somebody else can take that conversation on to somebody else. We got to start
Right.
talking about it, because we can't stay complacent, because they coming for us, man. I got to get these troops together now.
They took the heads off. That's all that is.
That's it. I appreciate
now.
you, baby girl.
All right.
So I think the point we were getting at it was the importance of history, right? Of learning your history, of knowing your history. To me, it's simply this: we are not going to fix what's wrong with America, and there are things that are great about America. Look, I served 22 years in the Army. You ain't going to tell me that there aren't good things about this country. I met good people in the Army. I loved a lot of the people I served with. There's a lot of good things about this country. There's a lot of bad things about this country. We are not going to fix what's wrong with this country until we come to terms with where we came from. Until we understand the history and all agree on the history, and we're not going to move past the history.
Speak your mind.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I was calling in and, talking about the importance of your history.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to talk about that just a little bit, how important it is. Like, 50% of the African-American black community, we drop out of high school, right?
Oh, yeah.
And part of that is the lack of culture, the lack of African and black culture in the school system. Dr. Blake Hudson said the school system is monoculture. And basically, I hated school because I never learned about the people that look like me. And I was learning a whole lot about these Europeans. I was learning a whole lot about these white men, but I never seen myself in the curriculum.
No.
So, and people talk about when it comes to education, the dominant culture and all other cultures, they understand how important culture is to education. And what's going on in our school system, our kids are not being educated; they being indoctrinated.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't never lied.
You know, in male high school, most of the students, and we're talking about the white students, at male high school, one of the most prestigious high schools in Jefferson County, their parents took them out of the classroom when Barack Obama had a live feed in the school system.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the only reason they did that is because he was African American, black mixed president. You understand what I'm saying?
And see, what are you teaching? What are they teaching? See, that's what this is why we have young racists. Like, there's no reason in the world we should have racists under the age of 30. Like, I don't understand, like, who taught you this? Like, somebody's keeping it alive, and it's just now coming out that all of these parties have never stopped. All of these meetings never stopped. It's just they've got somebody now that makes them comfortable coming out of the woodwork. Because how do you have 18? What was she? 19, and she was
college
torturing
students, high school students,
her
middle school
roommate.
students. Yeah, I mean,
you know, how do you have that type of hate in your heart and you that young? You didn't even grow up in the struggle. Like, I don't understand that.
we kind of fooled ourselves, didn't we? I mean, that was the thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's all the old people. When all the old racists die, it's going to be good because the younger generation. Yeah, we're not seeing that so much.
Yeah, people still look up to their daddies. So look at Trump.
I just think a part of American culture is a part of American racism, and this is dislike.
Oh, it is.
And this is pain for black people.
That's exactly what we were getting at with the whole slavery thing. Like, the Civil War was really about preserving racism.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery is just like it's like the symptom to the disease. The disease is racism. Slavery was a symptom to it.
One of the things we were talking about was, if you just leave it at slavery, then it's kind of
like the problem's
slavery.
gone.
Yeah, problem solved. The Civil War ended slavery, and so everything's fine now. But that wasn't the real problem. So yeah, that system was deconstructed, but we just replaced it with another system called Jim Crow. Right?
Yep.
And really, you're seeing it today.
I'm sorry I don't know your name, hubby, but have you heard Minister Farrakhan's speech of the Million Man March in 1995?
Yeah. Didn't we watch a
talked
video of that?
About how racism is a sickness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and what I think is really prophetic about that speech is because people are really starting to realize how sick our country really is.
Oh yeah, and it's showing. Our slip is
we
showing.
have to. If we can come to terms with that, if we can finally drag all that stuff out, we need like in South Africa they did a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, right?
Yep.
That's really what we need, to be honest with you. That's what we need. We need to finally come to terms with where we came from, how we got here, or we're just going to keep seeing the same sick stuff happen. We have not moved. I mean, we have moved a little bit forward. On the surface, we've moved forward. There are definitely things that are better now, right, than they were. There are things now that you can't legally do, but they find out ways to do the same things under the table. The same stuff is still happening in a different way. If we don't drag all that stuff out and make sure everybody, come to a common understanding of that past, we're never going to have to stop fighting the same battles that we're fighting now.
And I don't know if anybody has the capability that's part of this live feed, but I would love for Dr. Umar Johnson to be forward this live feed, because you know how you feel about interracial marriage and relationships, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want y'all to know that, I don't know how people felt about y'all before, but this is a beautiful thing to see. And I would love to see your husband on the show in the future a whole lot more.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to just say this. For anybody that may have felt the way a lot of black people feel about interracial couples, just know it had to been him. It couldn't have been nobody else. He had to be just the way he is and think just the way he think and speak just the way he speak for somebody like me to say I do to him. So know that it couldn't be just that guy that's like, Trump's all right. He would have never been able to get in my drawers. He would have never been able to get in these drawers. But yeah.
I certainly appreciate that comment. And here's the thing. I think one of the things about me is, look, I know I'm white. I was born white. I grew up pretty much middle class.
He don't like it, though. No, I'm just playing.
Well, but here's the thing. But I'm curious, right? So, and I'm a history nut. So I couldn't help but learn things as I read and read more and learned more and went to find answers, because every time you read something, this is the thing. There's a lot I don't know. Part of what I don't know is based on the fact that I am not black. I don't have those experiences. So, no, I understand that. But there's a lot that I do know, and the way I learn the things that I learned is just by being curious and following threads. You know what I'm saying? And, like, you learn something, but every time you learn a fact, like, more questions comes along with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, now I know that. I'm done. No, you know, well, how come this and how come that? So just constant reading, and constant trying to learn and listening. This is why I love doing this, is because, I learn something every time we do this, Yeah. And then all my friends hate me because it's like, they post their stuff. So, they post their little things on Facebook, their little memes and stuff. And the one way you're going to get me every time is bullshit history. If you post some kind of bullshit history meme on Facebook, Dave is going to crawl up out of the woodwork and flame you.
Oh, yeah.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time. And you use that word friend loosely. Them don't be his friends.
Facebook
He know they
friends.
Trump supporters, but he keep them around.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you straight up.
He keeps them around so that they can hear the truth from him, because he know they ain't getting it nowhere else.
You can't really be my true friend unless you know what's going on, unless you have some knowledge of reality. You can't be.
And accept it.
Point blank.
I'm about to. I just wanted to let y'all know that, this is a beautiful thing.
I appreciate it.
That y'all today.
Appreciate you, bruh.
So another little history fact we wanted to throw out there, because we wanted to get it in, and we got a little bit of time. So, one of the things I was laughing at, our buddy Rand Paul, good friend of the show. He went to Howard University, and he thought he was going to blow these students' mind at Howard University by telling them that Martin Luther King was a Republican, right?
Yep.
Dude, this is Howard University. They laughed at him because they knew that already.
Right.
But they knew the context. See, he thought he could throw that little fact out there. They love to throw them little facts, them little Facebook memes. I haven't seen people this mad. I haven't seen Democrats. Seen this meme today. I haven't seen Democrats this mad since Republicans took away their slaves. Think about that. Bullshit history. Now, not because Democrats weren't slave owners or slave owners were in that time frame in the 1860s. Slave owners were mostly Democrats. This is true, but you cannot equate the Democratic Party of 1950 with what we have today, much less 1850. You can't. It's totally different. What we have now is totally polarized. All of the left is on one side in the Democratic Party, and all of the right is on the other side in the Republican Party. 1950, it wasn't like that. 1950, going back what, about 70 years, 1950s. Democratic's party was a coalition of Southern conservatives and Northern big city machine politicians, like in Chicago and Kansas City and New York City and Philly. There was left-wing Democrats and there was right-wing Democrats. And the Republican Party was a coalition of Northeastern liberal wing and a Western state conservative wing in the Republican Party. There was a mix of liberals and conservatives in both parties. And it made politics very interesting, because those parties, would sometimes all be together on an issue, but when you got to things like civil rights, they weren't. And when you got to things like what we're going to spend money on, they weren't. Some things they were, but a lot of things they weren't. So you go all the way back to the 1850s, 100 years earlier. The Democratic Party actually split before the Civil War. They had two Democratic candidates in the 1860 election. One was pro-slavery and one was anti-slavery. And then they had, I believe it was called the Constitutional Party or Constitutionalist Party. I think it was a guy named Bell. And you had Lincoln for the Republicans. So just saying, trying to apply today to any time previous is nonsense. But that's stuff we got to start teaching, because if you don't have that knowledge,
tell them how did they split
and you just got to let it stick because you don't know no better.
How did it actually wind up splitting in the 50s after?
Well, so there was a lot of things. Number one, this is probably the most important one to me because it speaks to today. A lot of black folks that couldn't vote in the South, part of what they call the Great Migration, they were moving north. Those machine Democrats in the North were starting to get a lot of those votes. A lot of these folks thought, Republican Party, that's my party. That's the party that, pretty much ended slavery. That's the party of black folks. But it wasn't becoming like that anymore. All of a sudden, black voters were up for grabs. And that wasn't a big deal when there weren't many black people voting because they weren't allowed to vote in the South. But now you got them all in the cities in the North with the right to vote, and they are voting. Now we got to pay attention to what they want, because it's not just we can
do whatever.
Not just number one, we can't assume they're going to vote for us, which the Republicans did for a long time. That went out the window. And number two, it's a big voting block. Now it was one of the main things that Lyndon B. Johnson used to get the very first civil rights bill through when he was still in the Senate before he was president. He was saying, look, these people are voting. We got to give them something. Now, he tried to give them the minimum he could because he knew he had to get Southern votes to get it through the Senate. But why is that important now? Look, if consistently black voters turned out at 90%.
90%, like they did in Alabama.
If you knew good and damn well 90% of black folks would be registered and would vote, guess what?
That become important.
That drives policy.
But as long as they know
that the Democratic Party, which is true, they rely on your vote, but they don't always give you anything in return.
Right.
But guess what? If they knew for a fact they were not going to win without you, look what happened in the Alabama Senate race recently. Mm-hmm. That opened some eyes. If you can replicate that across the country.
Herlin, go back and watch this video, because we just explained all of that, and it ain't as simple as Democrats put us in slavery. That just sounds like way off base.
I mean,
and
true,
out of context.
True, but today's Democrats didn't.
Today's Democrats, it would have been Republicans today.
Yeah, the people who would have been Republicans in the 1860s would be in the Democratic Party now.
Right, they switched.
In large.
So when you say Democrats put us in slavery, it really would have been the Republicans of today. So understand what you're saying. Yes, they were classified as Democrats, but today they would be classified as Republicans. So know the difference.
I am not saying the Democratic Party is perfect.
It's not, and I'm not a Democrat anymore.
So many problems with the Democrat. That's why I say I am a small D Democrat.
I
believe in everybody being able to vote and everybody having the capacity to intelligently use their vote, and making sure that we take care of everybody in this country to the degree where they can actually exercise the freedoms that we say they have. Because there's an old saying, rich and poor people have equal right to sleep under a bridge, so to speak. That's kind of like, hey, everybody's got an equal right. Rich people, poor people, yeah, but rich people don't sleep under bridges, right?
Right.
True freedom means you have the ability to exercise that freedom, to do the things that, we say you can do. That means you got, that's where education comes into play. That's where making sure everybody's well fed, well housed comes into play. That's where safety comes into play, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so this goes back to fake history. They like to throw their little facts out there, and it sounds right because they only give you part of the story. if you don't know the rest of the story, you can't even argue with these jackasses. You can't even argue with them because you don't know.
And I'm going to expand on that. The two-party system does not serve the country, does not serve the democracy. Like, I don't understand why we are not doing more to overturn the Electoral College. But when I tell y'all, we have got to, like, gone are the days where the election is happening and y'all ain't making plans to vote. Like, when he says, I mean it, 80 to 90% voter turnout will get things done for us. It will get us criminal justice reform. Why do they need to reform the criminal justice system when they have so many people in their pockets right now that benefit from it? Mm-hmm. They have no reason to stop mass incarceration.
And show up and vote.
And they show up and vote. So when you think about, thank you for calling Speak Your Mind. Give me one moment. When you think about marijuana, for instance, and why it isn't legalized, you have to think about the pharmaceutical companies that donate to campaigns. You have to think about the private prison. Give me one moment. You have to think about the private prison industry. There are so many factors that keep things like, say, marijuana from being legalized. It's just bigger than that. Speak your mind, sweetheart.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know y'all was having a show. I thought this was ice up there.
Look at you. Look at you. We having a whole show and you on live.
I'm sorry. What's y'all discussion? I'm sorry.
We're discussing actually history. We don't like to call it Black history, but we're discussing history right now.
History, the positives or the negatives?
All of it.
Well, my opinion. My name is Jay Love. My opinion is, I think we should have a month that's a little bit longer with Black History Month instead of giving us the shortest month.
I'm with you. Well, my husband actually says that we shouldn't even have a Black History Month. We just need to rewrite the history books and incorporate our history within everybody's history.
Right. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. So you called in at the right time. See, we ain't talking about nothing bad. We talking about the good stuff that you want us to say anyway.
I agree with that because you know what? I think a lot of our history, I know a lot of our history hasn't been taught in the schools, and then if it is, it's not taught right.
Exactly. That's what we're talking about. We got to redo the books. It's like it's no use in, like, we don't even need the Black History Month. If you just incorporate our accomplishments with everybody else's, then you don't have to keep it segregated like you've been doing.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Well, thank you. What was your name, J Love?
My name is J Love, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, listen. I got a single to say. Y'all been playing it up there on the radio. It's called Why You Mad At Me, featuring J Bump. Give a brother some support, man. I got 5 labels just looking at me right now, and I'm talking with Def Jam right now. Just talks right now, but, we're going to come to some type of deal soon.
At least
so
they
just
talking.
Be looking out.
At least they talking. When they get silent, that's when you need to worry. Well, all right,
yes,
Mr. J Love, I'll definitely be on the lookout for you, and I'm going to make them play that for me.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Something I want to throw out real quick because I want to make sure I mention this because we're talking about voting. And voting is not just the presidential election. It's also the midterms, which are very important. Because, look, we got Obama in, and then 2 years later,
we left him out to dry. And he couldn't get nothing done.
He couldn't get nothing. But it's not just that either. School board elections.
Yes.
Very important. Louisville, Kentucky actually has one of the better urban school systems in the country. Has one of the least, or had one of the least segregated school systems for an urban area in the country. There are a lot of people that don't like that. If anybody that's listening, there's something called the Steering Committee for Action on Louisville's Agenda, SCALA. I was reading about this yesterday. Let me tell you something. Since the administration in Frankfort went Republican, one of their main things has been to overturn all the progress that Louisville has made. Ever since there was a student assignment plan in Louisville, they've been trying to overturn that. They don't like it. You know why they don't like it? We don't even have to go into all that. But now they're trying to sever the school system, and they're trying to put it under control of essentially folks that want to not only kill the student assignment plan, but they want to sever the funding. I think I said this a few weeks ago. The thing is the money. The good thing about Louisville's school system is, not saying every school is funded the same, but at least it's not as as much inequality as there is in a lot of school systems across the country. There's been stuff happening with schools in this city behind the scenes that people need to start paying attention. Number one, if they weren't paying attention, there was a bill passed in the last session that essentially said that certain, like, you've got Shively, right? Shively is a little community of its own within Louisville. But Shively doesn't have its own school system, does it?
Nope.
They do have their own police force, and et cetera, et cetera. They have their own tax base, but they're Jefferson County public schools. But now, see, they're trying to change that, and there was actually a bill passed last session that will allow different areas within Louisville, within Jefferson County, to split off from Jefferson County and also split off their schools from Jefferson County. They want to take their tax money out of JCPS. They don't want their tax money to pay to educate your kids, and they don't give a shit if your kids get educated or not, to be frank. They don't. People need to start paying attention to what's going on with Jefferson County schools, because I like JCPS, and I know people that teach for JCPS, and I support JCPS. And I think what's been going on, they've been trying to kill the student assignment, because that was just phase one, was to kill the assignment plan. Phase two would be to make sure their money and their tax dollars from their location pays for their schools, and your tax base in your location pays for your schools. So think about that. Anchorage property values fund an Anchorage school, and West End property values and West End income and tax base, which is also businesses, right? How many businesses are paying taxes in the West End of any? I wonder what happened to that Walmart that would have brought a lot of tax money. I'm not sure what happened to that. But anyway, this is what they want. This is what's happened in every other inner city school almost in the country. Go look, if you're interested, go look and see what's happening with Baton Rouge schools. The richest part of Baton Rouge, they might have done it already. I haven't read that they actually got it done, but they've been in court trying to split off from Baton Rouge. They want to take their school system and their money, which almost all the businesses anywhere around Baton Rouge, they're in this part of Baton Rouge. They want to split off, make their own town. Screw Baton Rouge school system. We want our own deal. So go read about what Baton Rouge is trying to do, or may have already done. I haven't been paying attention the last couple of months. And then you can see what the plan is for Louisville. I'm going to tell you, that's the plan. You don't have to be a genius to see it coming, but you can help keep it from happening if you pay attention and if you vote. If you don't,
or possibly run.
Because it's not just like, oh, well, my vote don't count. Yeah.
It does count.
In a school board election in Louisville, in Jefferson County,
your
vote counts.
Your vote, listen, only, honestly, and I'm not telling you not to ever, I'm not even going to read your comments no more, Miss Roberts, because you're on something different. But I'm just telling y'all, every election is important. The only time that you could possibly say that your vote don't count is the presidential election, and that's because they go off the Electoral College, and if you vote in Kentucky, you're pretty much going to be outnumbered. But every other vote counts. Now, let me tell you how your vote don't count. Your vote don't count because you don't vote. As long as they can depend on you sitting your ass at home or just going to work like business as usual and not stopping and actually casting your vote, they won't think about you when they're making decisions. Then when they making decisions, and you think about, I've brought this up on previous shows, and I'm going to say it again. Think about the LGBT community. Do you think they ever sat at home when it was time to vote for something before they got their rights? They never sat at home. They showed up 80, 90% every election until they got what they wanted. When the people saw, when the politicians saw that they were an actual electorate, like they are actual demographic we need to worry about, and we need to figure out how we can make them happy to keep their votes, they did that. They said, what is it going to take? What is it going to take? Gay marriage? Okay, you can have that. We'll give you that. Give us your vote. We'll give you gay marriage. You think they're going to reform the criminal justice system if we don't show up to vote? No. What's their point? What? They're going to piss off the pharmaceutical companies. They're going to piss off private prisons. Like, unless we show up to vote, they have no reason to give us what we want. Like me, I'm not voting for no presidential candidate that does not have criminal justice reform as a top priority for them. I'm tired of seeing videos. I'm tired of reading articles of how people, not just black people, people are being murdered and mistreated by cops and nothing ever happens. I'm sick of it. But until we show up and act like we sick of it, it will continue. They won't legalize marijuana federally because they got to explain that to the federal, to the pharmaceutical companies that sell probably 1,000 different drugs, chemicals for ailments that marijuana would cure. It's bigger than just weed. They know weed is medicinal. They have to keep saying that it's dangerous because it makes no sense not to legalize it.
And not only that, it has the added benefit of being able to put a felony conviction on so many people and take away their right to vote.
Right, taking away their right to vote, taking away them out of society, breaking up that family, killing that dynamic. Because we all know that children are less likely to come out okay when they come from a broken home. Well, if they can keep marijuana as a Schedule I drug, then they can keep people locked up. And see, all of these states that are legalizing marijuana, they're going to have to release all of their inmates that are incarcerated for marijuana charges. That's a big deal. Especially when a lot of these states have signed contracts with these private prison companies, just like the Chicago parking meter conglomerate. They signed these contracts that say we will keep X amount of prisoners in your prison so that you can make money. How do they make money? Free labor. Government funds and free labor. That's how they get money. But until we start showing up like they did in Alabama, they showed up so tough. I'm telling y'all, they was calling election fraud. They said, we've never seen this. It wasn't that more black people showed up to vote than they had black people. It's just they had never seen that many black people show up to vote on a special election or any election. So I'm telling you out of my mouth, if we show up consistently 80, 90%, we will not be an afterthought. We will start to see change. But right now, the changes that are happening are going to impact a lot of us very negatively, but I'm hoping that we can come together as a community, and if they implement these things, that we don't dog each other, that we come together to figure out the solution, because I don't trust whatever food they're going to put in them boxes and try to give us to eat. I don't trust it. I don't trust it, and I don't suggest you trust it. Be careful. Y'all got tax money coming. Be careful with it. I'm telling you, put some money up. You don't know what they're about to do, but if you pay attention, you get a good idea. And I don't like it. Do you like it, David?
There's a lot of things I don't like. But and I would say this, he kind of made a comment, but we can't. Nobody can do this by themselves.
Nope. Nobody
can do this by themselves. You know what I'm saying? The divisions that are between black folks and white folks in this country right now, you can't even. There's no way we're gonna fix it without both sides helping fix it. Point blank.
Speak your mind.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Hey.
I wasn't going to call back, but
it's all right.
One last thing. It's crazy. I had this dream about politicians, and I feel like politics is the only sector in life where you can get away with not knowing your job, not doing your job, and flat out saying you're not going to, and still keep your job.
That's until the people start firing these people.
That's, you know what, and I feel as a democracy, we have the power to fire these people. We have the power to get these people up out of here if they're not honoring what they plan, what they say that they're about. Like this is
absolutely
North Korea.
But just understand, it's not an accident how you watch movies like black movies and they always saying, well, your vote don't count, I don't vote, and they always drop those lines, and it's always subliminally in the back of your mind, well, my vote don't count. It don't count because you're not voting.
Right.
It would absolutely count if you voted. If they knew you was gonna, like, if they knew that we would come. When we had a black man on the presidential ticket, we showed up like 20%, yo. Like 20% throughout the country. It was like 20 to 30% is all he got. And he was a black man on the presidential ticket. We cannot keep, and as long as we doing that, they ain't going to look at what we need.
Right.
We don't count. We don't matter. We don't own enough land.
I mean, you can get at the house in the midterm.
My great
Every person
and one of her most proud moments was getting her the equivalent of GED so she could get the license to vote.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand the hurdles people had to go through.
Oh my God!
To get the right to vote.
Intelligence test.
Yeah.
Yes, and didn't just
Poll
do.
taxes,
They didn't just do an intelligence.
Grandfather clauses.
They played games. They made you tell you the lyrics to songs
that you would not know.
They have a big jar. They have a big jar of beans on the counter. How many beans
is in
there?
this jar? Right.
Yeah, I mean literally.
You know what I'm saying? And so this wasn't an intelligence test. This was I don't care what you do, what you know. We're not letting your black ass vote today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And worst come to worst, they'd
coming
shut the office down, and you just wouldn't be able to go in there. They just wouldn't let you. And they'd come by in the middle of the night and shoot up your house if you kept trying.
Right.
Point blank.
Yeah, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that politicians have a way of convincing people that that's just the game. I ask you a question, it's a yes or no question. Oh, you asked me about healthcare, and I'm going to go around the board about what America is and what it means to be proud. And what I'm talking about healthcare. What are you going on about?
I'm not they're not comfortable
any other interview, any other job. I promise you.
Yeah.
You'd be out on the streets. Like what? You're interviewing to be a podiatrist. Why are you talking about the elbow?
Right.
You know what? You're not cut out for this, partner. You're not.
It kind of like Trump is a classic example of what you speak about, because everybody was like, well, we like the way he talks, but like, okay, but he's going to be a politician, so shouldn't he know policy?
And
shouldn't he know,
I'm there.
like...
But here's the thing we got to come to terms with, because this is the thing. Number one, he did win.
So we
have to come to terms with how that happened.
The
we
Russians got in the
terms
machine.
with how that happened. Well,
he's getting reelected.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you really care, but I really feel like if you really don't want him to be reelected, because look, I'm gonna tell you straight up, I wasn't a big Hillary Clinton fan. No, I wasn't. But I would have preferred her to him.
With my whole heart.
You know what I'm saying?
I want a Bernie Sanders.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We were definitely a Bernie family.
But here's the thing: we can discount the people that voted for him, that put him there. We can discount those people. But the thing is, we haven't come to terms yet with the fact that a lot of people voted for Barack Obama twice. Mm-hmm. White people voted for Barack Obama twice and then voted for Trump. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm trying to get at, like trying to understand, because I don't understand it. I'm going to tell you straight up. This is one of the questions I still have, because it's easy to say, well, it was just all the racists that voted for Trump. But they voted for Barack Obama, so there's something deeper going on there.
And a racist wouldn't vote for no black man.
Figure out what that is and figure out how to counter that. Because I do feel like we're taking steps backwards.
I would try and put together a massive suit against Fox News and other networks like it that deliberately...
This is part of it.
Spread lies.
This is part of it. I don't know if you ever watch them now, still, every once in a while, because I feel like... You got to know what
they're saying.
They're putting out there, right? I'm not a fan, but I watch it every once in a while. Do you know, you look at like an hour, like a Hannity show. If you watch Hannity for an hour, the first half hour now, today, a year after the election, the first half hour is going to be about Hillary Clinton. Why? Because they know that one of their biggest driving factors in getting their candidate elected was hatred for her. It wasn't so many people that loved the hell out of him. Now, he made it through the primary process, so he was their guy. You know what I'm saying? But the motivating factor to get people out there was against her as much as it was for him.
And I think a lot of the reason why they stay on her is because they know that his election was not legitimate.
They want to keep people fired up.
Keep people fired up. That's his thought. My thought is they know for a fact Russia helped him win that election. They know that he didn't do it legally. And they think that at some point America's going to say, oh, Hillary won. She's going to be president. So they have to keep her name in the mud.
Which you know ain't never
They can't let it. No, because I'm not going to let her
It's
be.
It's never going to happen, right?
She's not being inaugurated in this country. No, I'm not letting that happen.
It's not now a question. I mean, let's face it. If you know, between now and 2020, it's not a question between Trump and Clinton.
No,
it's a question between Trump and Pence. If it gets that far, that's who you're going to get.
I think you're right. I think Pence is definitely distancing
that's who you're going to
himself.
get. And I am not convinced it's ever going to get that far. And the reason I'm not convinced is because
there's-
Congress isn't going to do that,
put
and
up
certainly
against
they're
Trump.
not going to do that.
We're not a nation of facts. We're not a nation that cares about anything that's worth caring about. We are a fly-by-night, oh, there's something shiny. You know, that's
Sadly, I think
the crux of what the American
I think there's too
public
much of
thinks
that.
about.
I wouldn't go so far as to say the whole country, because clearly that's not you, and clearly that's not us.
I'm talking about the people that show up in droves that got this man in power.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of them are just like the guy in that book he read.
People like me turned out. Bernie Sanders would have. He would have got a express ride to the White House.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly,
all of this because one, he's not a politician that shies away from the question.
Nope.
He can answer it. Honestly,
you may not like the answer, but he's going to give you not only that.
I'm not going to tell you something that's going to sound good. I'm going to tell you it's going to be hard work.
And not only that, but the thing, here's what I liked about him. You could go back 30 years.
And he ain't changed.
He has not changed his tune.
He's been consistent.
He's been very consistent. He didn't just wake up
and
and say,
where
I care about
changed,
black folks. He was in the
and
actual
he has
struggle.
changed some. He has said, look, he has had to defend some hard votes. And he said, you know what? I shouldn't have voted for that bill.
Right.
But he has explained, whereas other politicians have not, of what changed it. In other words, you know, Rand Paul early in his career was all about against the Civil Rights Act. I feel like if you don't want black people in your business, you shouldn't have to have black. Now he says, no, I don't believe that. But not yet all he says is, well, I don't believe that anymore.
He didn't
He
say
has
why,
never
though.
explained the process that he took in order to change from one. Because if you can give me a logical reason of why you feel different now, I'm gonna say okay. But you can't tell me what changed your mind.
It's not
Then I'm
popular.
like, no, you just don't like the fact that you're having it hung around your neck.
Exactly. Because he
Tell me
definitely
how you
feels like,
got where you say you are, and maybe I will believe you.
Yeah, but
Bernie Sanders can do that. And there are
he
other
has
good
to-
politicians.
You know,
And
voting
look,
is only a portion of what it means to participate in democracy.
and there are people on the other side that against Bernie Sanders I never would have voted for, but against Clinton I might have. Kasich, given the choice,
I would have definitely
that would have
given
been a hard
Kasich
choice
over.
for me. That would have been a hard
Kasich
choice
over.
for me. I mean, there are policy positions that Kasich would have taken. It would have been a very hard decision for me personally.
I think, in my opinion, Bernie was like a clear cut.
Oh no!
No.
If Bernie
Build
if
a
Bernie had been
politician,
the
that would've
nominee,
been
then there was no Republican that I was going to vote for.
No.
But given that Clinton was the nominee, it might have been him. He might have been the only one. There was a couple that early on dropped out that might have been half decent. But I've listened to a lot that Kasich has said since. At least he talks with some sense, and he understands that even as a Republican, if I'm the guy in office, I am not just in office for my base. I am in office for
The
everybody.
country.
Which is something that there's not a whole lot of that left.
Well,
Certainly you don't see that with McConnell because McConnell was all about just beating Democrats. He didn't give a rat's patootie about any. You know what, right? He didn't care about anybody that didn't vote for him.
Your boss,
No.
Let's just say you got a new CEO. Telling that new CEO, look, I don't care what you do. I'm not going to cooperate.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That's
Even if
what
it's
you
good
tell
for
me
my people, it's more important that I make sure that you're not here 4 years from now.
Which just tells you who he was. And I was so mad that we didn't put him out of office. I went live and everything, begged people to vote for Allison Lundergan Grams over him, but nobody listened to me. But I do want to thank you again for your call. We got to end the show, boo, and you don't want to give me your name because you know you was about to win.
Nope, I'm not doing it.
That's fine. That's fine. But I do thank you for calling, sweetheart.
Right on. Hey, good luck with relocating, and I appreciate you guys and all you've done.
Thank you so much. And I'm coming back in about a month or two. I don't know how long it's going to take us to relocate, but I'll be back in my new location when I do this podcast again.
All right. Y'all be safe. Be blessed. I'm out.
Thank you. So dope. So, Tony, you won, Mr. Young. I'm going to have to give you your card sometime soon, but I just want to say this. Vote. Like, when I tell y'all, I'm so, please, if you're not registered, register. If you was registered 10 years ago and you haven't voted since, just go to the county clerk's office and just make sure that they have your new address. Please vote. It is so important. It is so important. I can't say it enough. Baby, you got anything else you want to say?
I think it was a good evening. We had
I think it was. I had a good time. I'm so glad I can say I know someone on the same level as a Tim Wise. You know, he didn't know who he was, and then look, because you know I've been trying to get him to write a book.
Yeah,
y'all.
I need to read some of his books. I've got him on my to-do list, but you know.
So I didn't send him a link or something. He was like, well, I don't know if I should write a book. We already got somebody out here doing it. And I'm like, no, because people already don't like Tim Wise. They don't know you not to like you. So you need to be another voice to get the ones that won't listen to Tim Wise. They'll listen to you. So he's going to be working on his book once we move. He stopped everything. Production stopped once, you know, things changed financially. He was like, I can't focus on writing the book. I have to find a job. I'm going to get him on it, y'all. But again, the last person that shared this feed, when I get off of here, I'm going to contact you because you have won a gift card as well. So if you have not shared the feed, share the feed. The last feed wins to 25. I got Kroger's and I got Applebee's. So I do love you guys. We are out of here. Just be on the lookout. I'll let y'all know when I'm coming back. And I'm probably not going to be on this platform. It'll probably be IG. I don't know, but stay tuned. I'll keep you posted. Peace.
D.O.E.
You know what time it is.
Y'all know what time it is.
Go girl music.
D.O.E.
Definition everything. Chub and share. We hot, yeah, we burning up.
Burning up.
Fire, we stay turning up.
Turn up.
Bitch, we bout to blow.
We bout to blow.
Bitch, we bout to blow.
We bout to blow.
We hot, yeah, we burning up.
Burning up.
Fire, we stay turning up.
Turn up.
Bitch, we bout to blow.
We bout to blow.
Bitch, we bout to blow.
We bout to blow.
You gon' need some oven mittens. I can't stand it, get the fuck up out the kitchen.